Hey guys, welcome to the Cutoff Man podcast on mlive.com. I'm James Schmel. I'm the co-author of the Cutoff Man blog, and there's been a lot of talk about Curtis Granderson and whether our all-star center fielder will actually be with the Tigers next season. We got a big show lined up for you this week. We're going to touch on Curtis Granderson's season-long slump and whether the Tigers, would they be wise to trade away the face of their franchise? And I don't know how much thought you actually put into Lynn Henning and this whole, I guess, I don't know, explanation for trading him away as is. We're also going to meet up with ESPN 96.1 FM's Ryan Terpstra and get his take on the whole Curtis Granderson situation. But first, it's time for us to introduce the co-host of the Cutoff Man podcast. He's not actually in studio this week, but he is with us nonetheless. Let's welcome Scott Warhite. Scott, how you doing today?
I'm good, James. Sorry I'm not in studio with you. It was a fun time last week.
I know it was fun, but it can't be heaven every week, so sometimes we got to battle, and this will be good nonetheless. But let's keep the first question short. Lynn Henning of the Detroit News, he says the Tigers, they might be wise to trade Curtis Granderson in the offseason. What do you think, Scott? Do you think Curtis should stay, or will he be gone in the offseason?
I couldn't disagree with Lynn Henning more. I don't think it would be a wise move to trade Curtis Granderson. I don't think the Tigers are going to trade Curtis Granderson. I think Curtis is going to be patrolling center field for a long time to come. Now, had the Tigers held on to some of their outfield prospects and had Cameron Maybin kind of turned into the Ken Griffey Jr. that everybody thought a few years ago that he was going to turn into, and maybe you would consider something like that. But right now, I know that the struggles that Granderson has had against left-handed pitching are well documented, and we've talked a lot about that. But everything he gives you, both some speed on the base path, which is something the Tigers really don't have at all other than Curtis Granderson, the defensive work that he does. He's still a 280, 290 hitter this year against right-handed pitching. He's setting a career high in home runs. So I wouldn't trade Curtis Granderson. That is a guy that as you kind of said in the open, he's the face of the franchise. This is a guy that does everything right, is involved in the community, is involved in the local community, involved in the baseball community, helping to grow the game nationally and internationally. And I think that it would be a big mistake to trade him.
Certainly, the Tigers do have a club option that could keep him through 2013, so he could be patrolling that center field grass for a long, long time. And personally, it's amazing to see how much the story has actually picked up. Henning actually wrote and mentioned a Granderson trade previously, a couple months back. Didn't garner too much attention, but I guess Granderson's constant struggles, and especially his movement from the leadoff spot to number 7, has sparked a lot of this controversy. And I wanted to get your take on Granderson moving down to that number 7 spot. Are you okay with him relinquishing that leadoff role?
Well, I think it's not. I don't think it's a bad move. I think again, it's only against left-handed pitching. Where Granderson's hitting 185 against, but Jim Leyland's able to kind of keep him in the lineup. He's able to continue to have his presence felt, defensively later on in games when we get into the bullpen and right-handed pitching, is out on the mound. So I don't mind that move at all, and I think that in fact it's probably a smart move, but. Just because Granderson has struggled against left-handed pitching, I see no reason to give up on him. I mean, I don't think that would be a smart move, and I'm sure that there are plenty of executives in baseball that would love to have Curtis Granderson patrolling their team, and maybe that's what Henning thought, that the Tigers might be able to get a pretty good return for him. But unless you're getting back Roy Halladay, I really wouldn't consider that at all.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's move on to pitching now, especially specifically that is Jared Washburn. He struggled again yesterday, only lasting an inning. Last week you said you wanted Washburn in that postseason rotation because specifically of his left arm. Things have changed, specifically injury. Do you still stand by the notion that we need him in the postseason rotation?
Well, I think we need a left-hander in the rotation, if at all possible. Now, it doesn't look like that, might be a possibility. Obviously, Washburn is continuing to struggle with that knee injury and only lasted one inning last night in another big loss to Kansas City. And break up the Royals. If they could play as well in the middle part of the season as they did in April and now in September, they'd be running away with the division. But, the struggles that Washburn has had, Nate Robertson, has looked decent in the starts that he's had, but he continues to battle various injuries and can't seem to stay healthy and isn't a reliable presence. So, there's just not a lot of options for who that left-hander might be. So you might be looking at a postseason rotation of Verlander, Porcello, Jackson, and obviously that's what the Tigers had to go with. Those are certainly three solid pitchers that can get you victories in the postseason. But as I said last week, it would certainly be nice just to give the opposing team a different look, force the opposing manager to kind of shake up his lineup a little bit, maybe play some players that aren't as good defensively who might hit left-handers better to give yourself a better shot in the playoffs. But we're going to have to wait and see, and maybe the answer is you give Washburn a couple weeks off and hope that he's ready for the postseason.
All right, well, if we do give Washburn a couple of weeks off, who fills in for his spot? I mean, are we just talking about a whole lot of spot starters?
Yeah, I think that's what it looks like. The Tigers have already announced that Eddie Bonine is going to be in the starting rotation until the end of the year. Probably if Washburn is not able to continue pitching, I would assume that Zach Miner would probably step into that role, and the Tigers just try to get through the rest of the season. The one thing the Tigers I don't think would do is say go to like a four-man rotation. They're already trying to protect the arm of Rick Porcello as much as possible, pitching him on either shorter rest or more often than they otherwise would kind of go against what the Tigers have kind of done all season with him. So I think that you're probably looking at just some spot starters and just trying to kind of get through the rest of the regular season as quickly as possible and get to the playoffs where you can kind of shrink those rotations down.
Certainly. I like the idea of putting Zach Miner, giving him a couple spot starts. Unfortunately, I think Leland's going to keep him a long relief. Most likely what I'm thinking is Robertson will likely get the go as long as his groin can hold up. They're going to probably keep Galarraga in the pen to work on some of those elbow issues. But who knows? They recently just activated Alfredo Figueroa from the 15-day DL, so who knows? He could possibly make a spot start here or there too, even though they want to pitch him out of the bullpen. You mentioned this briefly, and that was about the Tigers wanting to keep an eye on Rick Porcello's pitch count and innings pitched. Are you okay with the idea of keeping a three-man rotation in the postseason, and how much could this potentially, hurt Porcello in the future?
Well, I think in the at least in the first round, with a shorter series, I think a three-man rotation makes sense. Going into if the Tigers were able to kind of get further than that, I think they could reevaluate. But I think the Tigers have been very careful with Rick Porcello all season long. He's no more than 85, 90 pitches at the beginning of the season. They've kind of stretched him out a little bit more lately. They gave him that break at the All-Star break, obviously, where he had almost 2.5 weeks off in between starts. Earlier when he got thrown out of the game in Boston, that really didn't count on the start, so it actually helped him keep his innings and his pitches down. So that might have actually been that wasn't the worst thing in the world, I think, for the Tigers, for him to kind of get another start off there to kind of rest his arm. So I think they've been very careful with him, and one of the reasons they have is not just to protect his arm for the future, but to make sure that he would be available in the playoffs if the Tigers needed him.
Okay, well let's move on back to batting. Maglio Ordonez. I'm glad this conversation can now be shut. Case closed. He finally reached his plate appearance goal, and he got his $18 million contract. It finally vested. He's been hot as of late, Scott, but I don't know. What do you think about a 35-year-old getting a contract of that magnitude? And also, I wanted to get your thoughts on how this will bode well for Mike Ilitch and Dave Dombrowski.
Well, I think that, if we would have asked each other at the All-Star break, is Magliardoni going to get the requisite number of at-bats and clinch that $18 million, we would have said no. I think we probably did on this podcast and said there's no way that the Tigers are going to let Ordonez get to that point. But, we've seen a little bit of a different Magliardoni. Obviously, the power numbers are not there, and they haven't been there all season. He's only hit 3 home runs since the All-Star break. But his batting average pre-All-Star break was .260. His batting average post-All-Star break is .357, including a .463 average so far in September. So, obviously he's getting on base. He's allowing people to drive him in instead of driving in runs, which was typically what you would see Magliardoni do. But he has definitely become a better player in the second half. Now, is he an $18 million player? No. And I don't think anybody would say that he is. But obviously, Mike Ilitch felt comfortable paying him that money, and it might hamstring the Tigers a little bit in the offseason as far as what moves they make free agent-wise. But obviously, Mike Ilitch kind of gave the green light and the go-ahead, and if he's willing to spend the money, then Tigers fans really probably shouldn't have that big of a problem with Ordonez reaching that number, especially given how well, at least batting average-wise, he's played in the second half.
Certainly. All right, well, let's move on to Warheight's closing argument. There's lots to talk about this week as the Tigers close out and try to avoid another series loss to the Kansas City Royals. Man, would that be upsetting. But from what I hear, what you want to talk about, there's something a little bit more touching that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, I wanted to talk about Ernie Harwell, which obviously he is speaking tonight at Comerica Park, kind of addressing the team, and then I think the Tigers are planning on doing something for him during the game at the Lions game on Sunday. They will pay tribute to him, and I think that is obviously well deserved, and I think that the ovation that he's going to get at Comerica Park and at Ford Field on Sunday will probably rival anything that we've seen at either of those stadiums in quite some time. I mean, obviously, like so many people, I grew up listening to Ernie Harwell both on the radio and on TV calling games, and we certainly wish Ernie the best. If anybody has not checked out his books, or a couple years ago he created an audio scrapbook. I mean, it's really amazing to listen to Ernie just talk about baseball and all the things that he's experienced. He was involved in a trade 40 years ago. He was traded for a player. He also called Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world. He called that on television. Very few people know that because it wasn't the famous Giants win the pennant call, but he was doing the play-by-play on that game. So just the amount of things that he has been around in baseball, and obviously everybody's thoughts are with him and his wife Lulu, and it'll be great to kind of see him at Comerica Park this weekend or tonight, and at Ford Field on Sunday.
Absolutely. It's so nice, I guess, uplifting to see how spirited he's been since this. I think the first comment that I remember him making when he found out that the cancer he had was inoperable was the fact that he said, well, this is great. I finally get to eat everything I wanted to. And that just kind of signifies how uplifting he's been throughout this whole ordeal, as well as the decades he's been with the Tigers, especially that 2002 year. I mean, he still remained upbeat during that, and I think he was one of the only few people who were upbeat. So
yeah, his attitude is really it's something it's really remarkable, and it's something I think everybody can kind of take a look, take something away from, and kind of seeing how he's kind of faced this illness and his diagnosis, and he's still the same Ernie Harwell that he's always been, and isn't feeling sorry for himself at all, but is just going out there and enjoying spending time with his family, enjoying kind of reaching out to Tigers fans and all the fans of Ernie Harwell, really all across the country, not just here in Detroit. So that'll be a pretty special moment at Comerica Park and at Ford Field.
Totally. I don't cry during movies, but I get real sappy when it comes to sports figures and retirements, and especially something like this. I'm thinking I'm not the only one who's going to be needing a box of Kleenexes by my side. But, Scott, I do appreciate you stopping by again. We're going to jump now to our pre-recorded interview with ESPN 96.1 FM's Ryan Terpstra, where we're going to discuss the collapse of Minnesota and the potential matchup against the Yankees in the first round of the playoffs. So stay tuned, guys. You won't want to miss that. And thanks again, Scott. We appreciate it.